Hi, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to episode 27 of the Katie Joy and 7M fiasco, where I believe that it's important to expose every single aspect of the truth. So, every single little detail in the lawsuit that has been filed to this point in I want to do each and every lawsuit too, as I've told you, to find out what is really going on. And here I'm trying to really show this ball here. And if you're looking at it weird, it does kind of look like a ball. But anyway, looks like hands on ball. Balls. Okay, there we are. This is supposed to be the witch hands on the like the psychic ball, but let's just be honest here. You know, looks like a nut. So let's see here. Let me see if I can. There we go. I can still turn this nut on. Look at this. Look at that. Ooh. You know what? Here. It's the season. Let's do this. Let's really do this. Let's turn off the light and really show it. Look at that. Isn't that cute? Making those visions go. What do the visions say? What's going to happen in this lawsuit? Are the things that protected a journalist for Time magazine in 1972 going to protect somebody who's living in a brown house with the brown couch, broadcasting from the brown couch in the brown house, making up terrible lies about people who have worked a lifetime to get where they are, making it so they lose their job? Is she going to be protected by the statutes of 1972? Ooh. What's that you say? Hell no, hell no. See, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that, okay, and we are talking about when her attorney says that she is protected by basically the ruling that was set in 1972 for a Time magazine reporter. In 1972, to write something that would be published in Time magazine would most likely mean that that was a person who had worked hard for their reputation to be a reputable source, a reputable journalist who was capable of telling the facts and the truth in a way in which Time magazine published them. That's a whole lot different than what we're talking about right now, where somebody's just being a little twat because they're mad at the world and that they're a control freak, and that they decided that when they allowed their husband to make them a parent, that things had to be perfect, and they would be perfect, and she'd be in complete control over that child. And when God laughed and gave her a child that needed a little bit differently than what she had planned, she got pissed off, mad at God, mad at the world, mad at everybody who wasn't going to give her what she wanted. So then she couldn't have what she wanted. So she's going to sit there and be bitter and promote bitterness around the world without her crystal ball. Again, where'd you think of that? Where did you get that name? I know you're listening. And I know that you're not smart enough to have thought, well, without a crystal ball, we don't know. So it's not hard to get a crystal ball. I mean, maybe it's actually get a crystal one, but you can get an LED one. You can get this little one right here that looks like it with visions and these cute little things from the Dollar Tree for fortunes. And you can have this kind of thing, and you say, without a crystal ball, I can't say this. Well, what are you doing? I mean, it doesn't even make sense because, well, without a crystal ball, I can't say that Lydia Bates isn't feeding her child right because her child didn't gain enough weight. And those fundies, they read that book, that Baby Wise, and that Baby Wise is all kinds of culty. That's not a journalist. That's not the way a journalist talks. That's not what a journalist does. Okay? I am not a journalist, and I wouldn't speak on Baby Wise or all of the other books that follow it. And I know that they have an online presence, etc. When I started hearing about Baby Wise in the Watts case over and over, I thought the same thing. I was like, okay, it's that book by the weirdos and it's dangerous and everything. What does it say? And as you can see, because you know this is the way I do things, I mark up everything and I do these little, I underline and I put these page things and I take notes and I take apart everything. These books were put in place. Okay, so look at, you've got an MA, so somebody who has a Master of Arts, so Gary Ezzo. I think he's the one who does the online content and whatnot. So he is the one they refer to the most. And then a doctor. I don't even see that this was done by a pediatrician. Do you see a pediatrician giving credit or writing right there? No. So we have somebody with an MA and a general doctor, and we have them over here as well. Now, Bucknam puts himself as a pediatrician over here on the 25th anniversary edition. It's questionable to me as to why he wasn't listed as a pediatrician here. Had he not done his full residency? Or is it because this book got so much criticism, as I just stated, saying, well, it's not even a pediatrician doing this. I mean, there's all these things that come out of this book. These books were written for the person who is overwhelmed with this baby that's there, that's just crying all the time, and you have no idea how much those little guys or girls can cause in laundry. You have this little tiny under 10-pound creature that has now created 5 loads of laundry, and all of the clothes and everything you bought for them, you realize you didn't get this, you didn't get that, and everything you got for them is dirty because you did not know the full meaning of a shirt until you had a newborn. Because the preemies, especially the preemies, the little, well, this is before swaddlers. Thank God for swaddlers. Oh my, thank God for swaddlers. Regular diapers didn't have that side elastic for the, around the legs and up the back. So they'd have their little formula fart and it'd go up the neck and everything. And you just look and you're like, I'm going to go draw a bath because this is going to need to, have a lot of water and some baby soap to get this baby to smell right again. You know what I mean? So if you were just this person and you just were just crying and you got this crying baby and you don't know what to do, somebody in the doctor's office decided to make this book. Because all it really does is say, and they refer to baby as baby, like I said, make sure that baby eats when baby wants to eat. And make sure that baby eats until baby can't eat anymore. And then put baby down to sleep. Because if you were just, I don't know, you hadn't been around babies and then you have this baby, you wouldn't know to do that. You would think, okay, it's crying. It takes a couple of little sips, then goes back to sleep. Okay, there you go. Oh my God, 7 minutes later, it's back up. It needs a couple more sips. Okay, all right. Maybe I'm going to get some sleep this time too. Then 4 minutes later, the baby's up. All this is doing, honest to God, is to say, you need to get a routine set up. So you have to have your baby drink milk and then sleep and do the same. Try to sleep when the baby sleeps, those kinds of things. The book is overly simplistic. And then it goes into just being very overly simplistic, I think, in the ways that it goes for, well, when should parents normally introduce solids into the baby's diet? What wrong feeding habits disrupt your child's hunger patterns, sleep and wake stabilization? Explain. This is for you to take notes, and I just randomly did this because that's basically what this is. So here we are. Summary. Establishing good eating habits may be the easiest facet of a child's training. The more established a child's diet and eating routines are, based on parental direction and not the will of the child, the smoother the process goes. Introducing solids to your baby's diet is part of the natural process of growth. even with the introduction of solids, remember to train the child as to avoid retraining later. It's just that, and it just goes through that. It's just basically saying, don't let this little under 10-pound creature control you, because that can happen very quickly, and then you just feel so out of control. You're sleep deprived, you've got all this laundry, you may or may not have any help, and you're not doing well because you're exhausted. Maybe you have other children, maybe your husband's in the picture, maybe not, maybe your husband's deployed like mine was, and maybe you have support, maybe you don't. This just sets up the framework to say, hey, think about what you're doing. Be cognizant of what's going on. So where I'm saying this is that what business is it of what Lydia Bates is doing? Wouldn't her focus be on what her child is doing? As we've seen, as I've told you all, my children, I did not start being a creator until my youngest children were over 18, because I knew that the cheapest shot that somebody will do is they will call CPS on you, and that's a whole separate issue with the Katie Joy I'm not discussing right now. But I'm saying that if somebody doesn't like you, they're going to sit there and bully you into quitting your channel, bullying you, so that you won't even feel like you can get up and make a recording without them bullying you. And then they're going to call the popo on you, and then they're going to call governmental agencies on you, and then the more they find out about you, the more they're going to call those respective agencies. They find out where you work, they're going to call your work. They find out, where you go to school, they're going to call your school. This is what they do. Okay? So, with that being said, what business is it of hers what the Duggars are doing, what the Bates are doing, what the Bates are doing with their babies? As my children, I've shared with you, are over 18, you still see how many times I get interrupted, and I have to stop what I'm doing to go and help them, and then I can come back, the next day, whenever, a few hours later, whatever. How is she not interrupted by her young child? Okay, he's in school, all right, or is she homeschooling? Okay, well, as often as she is online, how few times have we seen her be disturbed by what he needs? I don't think that that's normal. So here I am saying, from my experience as being a mom of 6, and then my bonus kids and whatever else that I parented, I'm saying that it's not normal to be able to be online for that long and not be bothered. So it would make me think that she should be a little bit more concerned as to what's going on in her home, rather than what's going on in Lydia Bates's home, or the Duggars' home, or anybody else for that matter. Robert Shin's home, Miranda Derrick's job. Why is she so obsessed over everybody else rather than looking at her? Is it because she doesn't want to see what's going on in her own home? That if she looks around her own home, she can't for a second stop and be happy with it? Is that what it is? Let me ask. Is that what it is? Yes! See? I have these crystal balls and they tell me, so maybe she should get a crystal ball and then figure it out. And then work within the home, find out what makes you happy. Because I don't think she's happy doing her channel. I don't think she can possibly be happy making money off of hate. But maybe she's the quintessential bad character in a Disney film. Maybe she's Ursula, and she loves taking away other people's voices. I mean, if anybody says anything against her, then she loves taking away their voice. What happened to Nene Marie? She said something about her on Twitter, and Katie Joy got her deplatformed from Twitter. Is that fair? For as much as Katie Joy sits there and talks about everybody else and does that, is that fair for her to be taking away other people's voices, taking away their hopes and their dreams? Why? Why is she such a villain? Why is she not the princess? Could she be the princess? Could she stop being the villain? Can she change her behavior? My crystal ball says, yes, she can change her behavior. She can absolutely stop being such a freaking twat, but she's got to put an effort into it. That's my lemon loaf tea from Tazo with cream in it. And then do not walk to Starbucks because they just put their Halloween and fall tumblers on 50% off. So I got this one I've been watching for a long time, that oil spill one that they got for Halloween. Isn't it beautiful? And I think it's supposed to be for cold drinks, but you guys know that I don't follow rules. So this has hot tea in it. And I have Hy-Vee, I think Good Dreams is what I'm trying. Has chamomile and mint and stuff in it. So that's that. I'll be sipping the tea as I'm spilling the tea as usual. Okay, so episode 27 brings us over to... We have the response to that cockamamie set of answers. And this was filed July 7th, 2023. So in the beginning of the summer in July. This was served by none other than Xena Warrior Princess, a.k.a. Amber J. Stavig. And she is representing 7M Films Incorporated, Robert Shin, Miranda Derrick, and James Derrick. And so... if you guys are kind of listening to this in order, you guys listen to the end of the ridiculous answers that Katie Joy and her attorneys cooked up to serve as answers to the interrogatories. So this would be the response to this. And as we are talking about what's going to happen in real time, is next month there will be a hearing based on the motion of the crappy responses for the interrogatories. So that's coming up, but we're still going back into how that was, because what should be happening, we should be past this, but because her attorneys couldn't get their act together, then we are in this place and we are all sitting there waiting for them to get caught up, which is very nice of 7M and very nice of the judge, because the judge could have said at any point, no, you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. You have 10 days to get into compliance, or you're in contempt of court, or her attorneys could look at this and say together, hey, we can't do anything. What would it take for this all to go away? Write a frickin' check. And I'm surprised that hasn't happened yet. But anywho, Wright County, nothing happens. Do nothing, Wright County. So we come over here and we have what Amber J. Stavik has written, and it was filed on 7/11/2023, and we see so much was, done in that time period. Not all of it was visible, but what was is here now. And let's see here. So we're going to go, this is sent to Troutman Marin Law. Now Marin, not Martin. Huh. I'm telling you. Let me see here. Words keep getting changed. Nobody looks at what they're doing, because Marin Law is different than Martin Law, right? I mean, honestly, some of this stuff, if, I adore Amber, but you got to spell everything right. So I'm going to put a little right here. I'm going to say, that should have been Martin. Okay. A little tisk. Okay. So, she says, so Amber's talking. She says, this is regarding 7M Films Incorporated, Robert Shin, Miranda and James Derrick versus Catherine Mansky Paulson and Without a Crystal Ball LLC. Court file number 86 TAC CV TAC 22 TAC 1722. Dear Ms. Moore, I am in receipt of your discovery responses dated June 12, 2023, in which you raised objections to most of the discoveries served upon you. After reviewing your objections, I would like to address them as follows. Here we go. Gonna go. All right. Number 1, requests for production of documents. Request number 1. Plaintiffs requested all documents which relate to any claims and defenses alleged in the litigation between the parties. Defendants objected as impermissibly vague and protected by journalists' privilege. This request is not impermissibly vague. It is specific as to requesting documents which relate to this lawsuit, and defendants' defense is in the same. If defendants are unclear as to what relates to the lawsuit, they are welcome to research the rules of civil procedure and discovery to deduce what is relevant and discoverable. Oh, snap. It's like, you know what? If you don't know what it is, why don't you frickin' look it up? That's what that says in a very nice way. Okay? Now, here we go. Further, a journalist privilege pursuant to Minnesota Statute 595 and Cervantes versus Time Incorporated does not allow anyone, even if they are a journalist, to withhold all information in a lawsuit for defamation. Boom. Bada boom. It is plaintiff's contention that defendants are not journalists. There. That's okay. This is what we're saying. This is why Amber is our folk hero. We are saying, yes, Amber, it is time that you lay this out, because this is what we're talking about. Why doesn't anybody else see it? Apparently other people are starting to see it. She's not a freaking journalist. She's posting on social media. She's a professional poster on social media. She does social media full time. It is plaintiff's contention that defendants are not journalists, and therefore they cannot assert journalistic privilege. Yes, this is what we've all been saying from the very beginning, and this is the crux of what is going to come down to if we go to trial. Now, by going through everything here, you are all going to know more than the jury would know. If a case goes down to a jury trial, civil or criminal, so much of this goes through sorting. Kind of like, when you're mining for gold and they sift and sift and sift and that little gold nugget comes out. That's what happens. And the gold nuggets are told to the jurors based on what the judge determines to be fair. Each side will argue, this should be heard, this should be heard. And then just these little gold nuggets. So even when we were watching these highly publicized trials with Jodi Arias and Casey Anthony, of course, those were a few years ago, but we knew more than the jury knew, because the jury was selected, and the jury was only, they picked jurors that didn't know some of the things that we knew that would have been very damning. They want to give every single opportunity for the innocent to remain innocent. We do not, in our society, ever want to put somebody who is innocent behind bars, no matter what, or have the innocent be proven and convicted of something that they're accused of if it is not true. Anybody can accuse anybody of anything. And that's where I was talking about she's in trouble, because she is going by what somebody has accused Robert Shinn of. Not convicted of, not proven, accused. Like I say, how many of us are accused of doing this or that? And sometimes there's no basis, sometimes there is. Nonetheless, this is exactly, we've known this from the beginning, but to see it stated here after a year and a half of it, being back and forth, to see it in writing that Amber is right on top of things like we knew she was, is really refreshing, I feel. I went ahead and just paginated these to make sure that when I'm flipping back and forth, I don't get mixed up while I'm talking, but otherwise I don't peek ahead, so that you guys can always hear me as real and genuine as you would be if we're talking, sitting there having coffee or tea, like I say. Again, thank you for being here. Your time is valuable to me. Thank you. Now, defendants have failed to move the court for a designation as a journalist. as defendants have failed to protect any alleged privilege as a journalist in the past year of litigation, it is improper to use an alleged journalistic privilege to shield them from complying with any discovery in this action. Exactly. Defendants are required by law to release to plaintiffs discoverable and relevant information in this lawsuit. Okay, and again, this is what the next hearing will be to enforce this. The judge will look at this and see the behavior to this point and enforce this. This is incredible. This paragraph is probably one of the most relevant and poignant aspects of the entire lawsuit to this point, in my opinion. Request number 2. Plaintiffs requested all documents referenced in responding to interrogatories. Defendants responded that they linked digital copies in posts. Defendants are required to provide all documents referenced when preparing answers to interrogatories. If there are specific posts, messages, emails, call logs, notes, etc., which were referenced, they must be disclosed. If there are any documents which, as privileged, defendants must submit a privilege log to plaintiffs. Merely directing plaintiffs to defendant's post is not a sufficient answer to this request. Defendants are required to answer this request. Request 3. See response to request 2. Boom. Request 4. Plaintiffs requested defendants produce all social media posts defendants have made regarding 7M Films, Incorporated, or their associates. Defendants did not object to this request, but instead stated they do not know what affiliates means and that defendants have asked plaintiffs to provide copies of plaintiffs' posts already in its possession. As to the latter, defendants' discovery to request plaintiffs is not relevant to this lawsuit. Defendants are not suing plaintiffs. There you go. And that's the way it felt. When I was reading it yesterday, I was going, who's suing who here? Okay. So, therefore, any requested posts are not relevant to this lawsuit. All of plaintiffs' claims in this lawsuit are based on defendants' post, as the entire lawsuit rests on defendants' social media posts. Defendants are required to provide the same. Defendants' refusal to comply with this request is in bad faith and therefore a sanctionable offense. Thank you, Amber J. Stavig, aka Warrior Princess. I was shocked when I was reading this because if I would have been this pompous and cocky ever, I would have been sanctioned. I don't get this. I cannot believe that an attorney signed their name to this, what has been put up to this point. I mean, and you know what? Attorneys have reputations within, and so it makes you wonder what kind of a reputation her attorneys have, if they're known as being problematic, or if they're known as just ones that paved the way and they're just, I don't know. I don't know. I would be scared to have been a party to what I read in the last episode. And I completely agree that they are sanctionable. Sanctionable means to get in trouble. For a judge to sanction you means that you have to pay a penalty, do a penalty, spend time in jail. Let's check out sanctions in our law dictionary to make sure that we are all on the same page here. Let me see if I can explain it better. Let's see. you don't want a judge to sanction you. That can be financial or otherwise. What I'm saying here, so sanction. Sanction. All right. Here we are to sanction. Let's go here. Sanction, a punishment for a violation of accepted norms of social conduct, which may be of two kinds: those which redress civil injuries, i.e. civil sanctions, and those which punish crimes, i.e. penal sanctions. See 81 and blah, blah, blah. Also, to approve conveys the idea of sacredness or of authority. In other words, it says it's a punishment. So let's say that you did something and you got grounded. That would be your parents sanctioning you, essentially, authorizing a punishment due to something. And indeed, the way that I read that, I would think, okay, wow, they're brand new lawyers. But as I went and saw, they're not. And, pulling Jennifer Moore's caseload and previous caseload, she's had quite a few cases. I don't think I did Graham's. Maybe I did. I don't know. Amber's the junior lawyer here. Amber's the newbie. She's what did I think she said? I think she said she's been practicing maybe 5 or 7 years. So she looks much younger than she is, I guess, because she must be about 30, but she looks about 24. A very beautiful lady. But we found out what she went on a basketball scholarship. So she, people who are athletes tend to look better, healthier, younger. Anywho, we can say now, as to defendants' claim that they do not know what affiliate means, the dictionary definition of affiliates is to officially attach or connect a subsidiary group or a person to an organization. As counsel for defendants has repeatedly stated that she has decades of experience in litigation, stating they do not understand what the word affiliates means or how it is connected to 7M Films Incorporated, is not persuasive. Further, defendants' objection to affiliates does not preclude discovery of information as it relates directly to plaintiffs. Defendants must answer this request in full. Bam! There you go. Another hit. Okay? There you are. Okay? That's what we're talking about. And that's the thing. When I saw Jennifer Moore, when she was just playing the little confused, sweet old lady, like, well, what was I supposed to do? I mean, it was the 4th of July. I went on vacation and I come back and all of this was due. And I didn't know. What was I supposed to do? You know how when you confront a narcissist and they act dumb and confused and act like, they just landed on the planet and you need to tell them which way is left and right. You know how it goes. That's exactly what was going on. It was absolute manipulation, and I hope that the judge starts to see through this, because we know that the judge got changed, and I told you, kind of the backstory and why that could be, because of, the new courthouse, new prosecutor, new sheriff. So when they initially gave this case to somebody else, they might have seen that, okay, let's see what kind of upcoming trials there are, and they might have figured that this judge has the most time. I don't know. I don't know for sure, but I can say that if there had been one judge consistently seeing this from day one, I feel that this might be a little more understood, but we also had a pandemic going on. So without the pandemic, without there being, the Zoom calls, and the attorneys actually seeing themselves in person for the first time just a couple of months ago, that's why this has been circling the drain. Okay? That's all I'm going to say about this turd of a lawsuit. Just circling the drain. Circling the turlet. Anywho, Oh, my barrier doesn't want to stay there. Oh, are you going to fall down on me? Maybe. Thank you for sitting here, Boo. It's so nice. Boo's sitting here listening, so nice. He agrees with me on all of these things. I mean, but to sit there and act dumb as an attorney of over 20 years, like, I don't know what you mean by affiliate. Like, I don't know. It's a big word. What does it mean? That's manipulative. Interrogatory number 5. See response to response 4. Boom. Interrogatory number 6. Plaintiffs requested all social media regarding Melanie Wilking and or her affiliates from January 2020 to the present. Defendants objected as Melanie Wilking is a non-party. Information related to non-parties is discoverable information. Defendants' post indicated that she had contact with Melanie Wilking and others associated with Ms. Wilking. There you go. As defendants' own statements have related Melanie Wilking to the core factual basis in this lawsuit, information and communications regarding her is highly relevant. Defendants must answer this request. Okay. Now, I do agree. It is problematic that she wasn't listed. I guess, how could she be listed as a party unless they're going directly for her, but they know they're going directly for Katie Joy. So, I mean, I could see that they're going to get this and that thrown out. Now, to this point, they will be able to call Melanie as a witness. And this is going to be a huge part of contention. This is going to be a win or lose battle in and of itself as to how much the information brought back and forth, and if Katie Joy is going to sell her out. And how much she alluded was from Melanie and how much was just her. She'll be a witness, and it'll be interesting to see the way that both sides would be able to, well, yeah, both sides would be able to question her. So which side would call her? All right. Request number 7. See response to 4. Request number 8, see response to 4. I mean, I like that rather than just copying and pasting like the others are doing it, as we can see. Plaintiffs requested defendants produce all drafts of social media posts defendants have made regarding 7M Films Incorporated. Defendants objected on the grounds of relevance. Defendants have engaged in a campaign of false information against 7M Films Incorporated, almost exclusively consisting of posting to social media. All draft notes, communications, and other preparation materials are relevant to this lawsuit. Unposted or posted drafts are relevant as they may allow the court to glean information as it relates to the factual accuracy of defendants' posts as well as the intent of defendants in posting them. As the information is relevant to this lawsuit, defendants must disclose. I can see that, but I don't see how they can enforce it. How can you prove the existence of? I mean, work privilege, work product. I think that they would be easy to destroy and not be able to prove that they exist. So that's kind of iffy, in my opinion. Request 10, see response to request 9. There you go. Request 11. Plaintiffs request that all correspondence in which defendants discuss 7M Films Incorporated and its affiliates with third parties. Defendants objected as material protected by journalistic privilege. As previously stated, defendants do not qualify as a journalist and therefore not entitled to any journalistic privilege. Notwithstanding, the privilege asserted does not protect from discovery of relevant information as it relates to all third parties. Journalistic privilege is narrowly applied to sources of information to journalists, not to all persons whom a journalist contacts regarding an issue. Further, if defendants were themselves a source to a legitimate news organization, they do not qualify as a journalist, but a source and must disclose that information. Defendants are required to respond to this request. Exactly. Because, okay, so when we have, Nancy Grace, my spirit animal, absolutely love her. When she's talking, she'll have a panel of people up with her. And, most most true journalists will have a stack of papers with them. Those papers are given to them by the team working behind the scenes that has went and researched through all of these different places where they can fact find, and from interviewing others and from confirming or denying information. It's a huge thing. And then if you're a journalist, then you work for, so then that journalist would work for this publication, because then that publication is going to be sure, and they have an editor and somebody to proofread and make sure that everything is written correctly, and to make sure that everything being printed is not going to get them in a problem like this. This is why you don't do what Katie Joy does. But Katie Joy does what Katie Joy does, because Katie Joy wants to. And that's that. And for her advice, you can put a nickel in a bucket. Peppermint Patty. Anywho, let's see here. Request 12, request 13, request 14, request 15, request 16. See response to 11. See response to request 11.5. See request 13.4. So instead of copying pasted, she's like, okay, go and see this, go and see that, go and see this. So there'll be all these there. And then we have over here where we say, if we have, this is going to be interesting, and I want to make sure that we flag this. Because it says here, plaintiffs asked for tax documents from Catherine Mansky Paulson from January 2020 to the present. Defendants objected as to relevance. Defendants have a self-proclaimed monetized social media presence. The subjects she discusses on her social media page are what brings in revenue. If defendants have sustained an increase in revenue as a result of their disparagement of plaintiffs, that monetization is relevant to defendants' motive for their continued assault on plaintiffs' character. As tax returns and other financial statements are relevant to this lawsuit, defendants must disclose the same. There you have it. Request 18. See response to request 17. Request 19. Plaintiffs has requested all contracts defendants have entered into with third parties regarding plaintiffs and the Shekinah Church. Defendants objected as the contract claim confidentiality clauses. Defendants have failed to provide case law which supports the contention that a confidentiality clause in a contract would preclude discovery in a lawsuit where there has already been a determination that parties may elect to assign confidentiality to documents disclosed. Further, in response to her interrogatories, defendants claimed that they were unaware of anyone they had made contact with regarding plaintiffs and that they did not keep any such records. Bam! There you go. If defendants do in fact have these records, it appears that defendants have lied under oath in their discovery responses, which constitutes perjury. Oh, there we have it. Thank you. Thank you very much. Really appreciate this, because It's about time somebody was able to frickin' decipher the word salad that her attorneys have put forth. In my opinion, allegedly, supposedly, they did. Okay. Request 20. See response to request 19. All right, 19, wherever we are. 21 says, plaintiffs requested all communications regarding the production of an HBO documentary regarding plaintiffs. Defendants objected due to journalistic privilege. As previously outlined, defendants are not journalists. Further, the journalistic privilege only extends to a journalist revealing their own sources, not to the information an individual gave to a journalist. As defendants have given information to HBO or its affiliates for the purpose of creating a documentary, it is assumed that contract had some sort of monetary consideration to defendants. As defendants are potentially gaining monetarily from this documentary, it goes to motive. Further, the conversations and correspondence given to defendants to the documentary are extremely relevant, as plaintiffs are entitled to review the nexus of information between what defendants were told from their sources to what they have stated on their social media platforms, as well as what information they gave to other journalists or documentary creators to report. The basis of plaintiffs' claims rest on defendants' creating false information and stories about plaintiffs, information which proves that is both discoverable and relevant. As such, defendants are required to answer this request. Take a bow, Amber J. Slavic. Thank you so much. Boom. This is what we have been saying. This is why none of this makes sense. Why we keep seeing this happening, and this is logical. This is why I'm not doing what Katie Joy does. This is why you're not doing what Katie Joy does. This is why, yeah, you can make a lot of money, but that money's going to be taken and more for you doing what Katie Joy does. Allegedly, in my opinion, I think it's going to happen. You just don't do this. You just don't. There is right and wrong, and then there is, what the hell are you thinking? Wrong. You just don't mess with people's lives like this. I mean, I don't get it. And she doesn't know any of these people. It's not like she was in a relationship with Shin and she knows all this stuff and she wants him exposed because of this. No, she doesn't know Shin. She doesn't know the Duggars. She doesn't know the Bates. She doesn't know any of the teen moms. She doesn't know any of these people. She has no personal firsthand information or connection with any of these people at all. Other than they are people that have a lot of dialogue on social media. So by her acting like she has the inside scoop on them, she's getting views to her channel, which make money. But then people are like saying, what are you doing? This isn't true. How do you know this? Doesn't matter. All that's traffic to her thing. It's crazy. It is absolute craziness. Request 23, see response 21. Request 24, see request 21. Interrogatories. Interrogatory 2. Plaintiffs requested defendants identify each person they are aware of who may have knowledge or who is likely to have knowledge of discoverable information relevant to the facts and circumstances of the claims in this lawsuit. Defendants objected on the basis of journalistic privilege pursuant to Minnesota Statute 595, Statute 021 through 025 and Cervantes versus Time Incorporated. Defendants are not a journalist, and the court has not found defendants to be a journalist. Okay. Number one, where has she ever shown up in court? And the first time that the attorneys saw each other is what I documented. So she's not been in front of the judge. Is there going to be a point where she goes in front of the judge and says, I'm a journalist? And then what is the definition of a journalist? If you're hired by an organization, are you a journalist? What if you're an independent journalist? What makes a journalist? That is going to be a huge thing that is going to have to be asserted here. And again, these things might get the attention of a lot of people. It's time that these things are defined and that there are provisions restated, and what is and is not acceptable needs to happen. What is a journalist? Many of her social media posts involve her consuming alcohol. God, no. Are you ready, guys? Here you are. Take a sip of here. Take a sip here because we're going to spill the tea. Here goes. Amber, you are my hero. Okay? Want to hear it? Here we go. Many of her, meaning Katie Joy, many of her social media posts involve her consuming alcohol to the point of slurred speech while discussing her personal opinions on topics like religion. This is not typical of journalists reporting for the New York Times or even a local news source like the Star Tribune. What? Don't we all get our best stories from the bar stool? I know that I do. I mean, you get to find out who's banging who from the local watering hole, don't you? Oh my God. And she's home with her kid and the daytime drinking, and it's now going to be known to the world because somebody else can do what Katie Joy did and look at this and say, well, it's what we all see, but oh, her day is coming. She should have stopped when she was ahead with Tati and just turned around and started being a real nice person. But no, Botox ain't cheap. Oh, she's in trouble. I bet you she's a boxed wine kind of gal. All right. Oh, Boo Boo, are you asleep, sweetheart? Are you asleep, baby? Okay. Can you imagine the back talk that's going on? Can you imagine that when they were putting together this lawsuit and looking and watching her, and you've got 7M and Robert Shannon and all that reviewing this, and they're going, what the? She's drunk. What is she doing? You know, Nancy Grace, speaking of Nancy Grace, she did, get in trouble because she did nonstop coverage of, and I've talked about this before, God, what's her name? Miranda Duckett? Trenton Duckett's mom. If I said the wrong name, I'm sorry. You know the gist of what I'm talking about. And Nancy Grace did. She called her. She called her out and said, what did you do with your baby? What did you do? And the baby's dad, showed the text messages and stuff. And it was really bad. I mean, you basically knew that she did something to him and was threatening to unalive herself. And ultimately, she did unalive herself, and the family blamed it on Nancy Grace, and I do not believe that Trenton Duckett has been found to this day. But the point of my story here is that I do recall Nancy Grace being in trouble for her coverage of that, and she did pay out, and so I don't know. Probably that's a good case where the LLC paid out. And I don't think it went to Nancy Grace herself, but I don't know because she remained on that same network afterwards. We know that Ashley Banfield started saying what I was seeing and others were seeing in the Watts case, going, hold on, what you're saying here and what major media is selling all of these headlines on this perfect family, and the husband just snaps one day and just is going to do this if you don't make a sandwich right. As soon as Ashley Banfield said, something isn't right, she lost her job. You can do the math. You can say, okay, the last time she reported was here and then that, but you know what? She came out on top, and I think she was working. Well, let's see. She went then on. She was on HLN, and then she ended up with a much better job. Has her own show, Banfield. I don't know if it's still on. I haven't followed her, but I used to just love her in the very, very beginning. Did you guys watch her in the very, very, very beginning? And Jane Velez Mitchell in the very, very beginning, when Jane Velez Mitchell had that weird little haircut, weird modified mullet, rounded mullet. I did. And Beth Karas. I loved that. I loved watching that, just having that on the background. But they kind of stopped doing that. Yeah, journalists need to be sober. Because as they're saying here, this reporter that they're citing, Cervantes versus Time, because whatever they posted in Time magazine, they're not going to have a drunk reporter. Their Time magazine isn't going to be, hiring reporters that are known for being irresponsible. Now, it says, that if defendants were a journalist, so if Katie Joy were a journalist, they are not precluded from identifying anyone who they may share information. Defendants' own social media posts have boasted about sharing information with numerous contacts, and has shared some of these conversations on her own page. Defendants have further engaged in conversations on numerous social media platforms regarding this matter. Finally, though given over a year since the start of this litigation and numerous discovery motions, defendants have not made a motion to request a judicial finding from the court that they are a journalist and that they are entitled to journalistic privilege. As defendants have not been determined to be journalists by the court, they do not fit the definition of a journalist under either Minnesota Statute 595 or Cervantes versus Time Incorporated, and the information sought by this interrogatory does not fit the definitions under the aforementioned sources. Defendants must answer this interrogatory. Okay, so this is stating that if she was a journalist and say that she worked for this place or she's an independent journalist, her attorney would say, okay, you are a journalist, you're an independent journalist, let's go and show your credentials and show why you need to protect this to a judge behind quarters. I will request time with this judge, and you need to come here and you need to be prepared to show your CV, your curriculum vitae or other listing of where you've been published and how you've been published to certify that yes, you are indeed a journalist. I think that her attorney, if he thought for a second that he could do this, would have been done. But they know they can't, and they're just I think they're just pushing this out until somebody decides that they'll settle for less money. But then they're going to be in appeals too. You know what? Let me see here if I can find definition of a journalist in this. Because journalistic, okay, let's go here. Let's go into this in our handy dandy Barron's Law. We're going to go over here. And we're going to say, journalists, newspersons, privilege. Some states have enacted shield laws granting media persons the privilege of declining to reveal confidential sources of information. No constitutional basis for such a privilege has been found in the First Amendment's guarantee of freedom of the press. 408 United States 665. Such a privilege, however, must yield to a defendant's need for discovery and for a fair trial as constitutionally guaranteed under the Sixth Amendment. 394A, 2D, 330, 581, page 2D, 812. And similarly must yield in any circumstance where the interests of justice so require. 444. F Supplemental 195. However, disclosure can only be required if relevant to issues at trial. Okay. Still. Okay, let's see here if we can find affiliate in this as well. Just to see if it be. This is a good one, and then Black's Law Dictionary is a good one too. I don't know what I did with my Black's one. It's somewhere smaller. Sometimes just to go back and see the actual definition of things is helpful. But, just like, nurses used to be Catholic and learn in the Catholic hospital. They go from Catholic school to the Catholic hospital, and they would learn on the job, and they'd become nurses. Attorneys, the same way. They would go, and if you wanted to be an attorney, you would start, maybe go if your father was an attorney. If your father had become an attorney by helping defend others, and you learn on the job, because before there were colleges, that's how it was. And then we have our system of colleges, but as far as an attorney having some kind of God-ordained privileges, it is not happening. It's that they learn too. Just so please don't anybody put yourself down and say oh, I don't know law, I don't know anything like this. It's common sense. You guys all do great in the chats, and I really appreciate all that you talk back and forth with me about. So let's see if we go affiliated corpse, but they don't do affiliate to help out her attorneys. Goes corporation, but as this isn't a general dictionary, this is just for often used legal terms. Let's see here. And then interrogatory 6. Plaintiffs requested all facts which support each denial in defendant's answer. Defendants objected on the basis of the interrogatory attempts to expand the number of interrogatories. Defendants have provided no law to support that is a valid objection. Further, the answer to this interrogatory could be the same if we asked for a specific denial or for all of them. Defendants must answer reasonable discovery requests pursuant to the rules of civil procedure. Requesting identification of facts which support the denials in defendant's lawsuit is the most basic principle of the discovery process. Exactly. The basis of this lawsuit is that defendants made up lies about plaintiffs and it caused them harm. Requesting discovery to show how defendants' claim that they did not make up the statements they made up about the defendants is the most relevant part of this lawsuit. Defendants must answer this interrogatory. Exactly. That's the crux of this. Absolutely. And on that note, we will start episode 28 there on interrogatory number 7, and we will call this one part 27. I thank you for your time, and I hope that you're having a great evening, a great day, however it is that you found me. If you liked this content, please like and subscribe. I really appreciate it. Appreciate your time. If you have any questions, put them in the comments. I look forward to talking to you soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.